Hi everyone. In this chapter, we're going to kind of mix it up a little bit and do something different and really talk about measurements. So the big thing in chapter 9 is learning how to go in between different systems of measurement. Particularly the English system and the metric system is one of the bigger changes that we're going to end up learning how to make in this section. So in 9.1, we're going to start with topics on length. So measuring length, and we're also going to talk about the English system versus the metric system. So the measure of an object is to measure an object is just to assign a number to its size. So I guess say its size, right? The number representing its measure from end to end is called its length. Now measurements are used to describe properties of length, area, volume, weight, and temperature. So over centuries, people have developed systems of measurement that are now accepted in most of the world. So we're going to focus in section 9.1 on length. So you're going to see that our calculations are one-dimensional. So in the next section, we'll talk about area and volume, but here we're just going to focus on length. So kind of one dimension here. Now, one thing you want to note is every measurement has two parts. There's the number and there's also the unit, which is really important. And many different units are commonly used in measuring length. So in the United States, we typically use the English system. So we have things like inches, feet, yards, and miles. And the results obtained from measuring length are called linear measurements or linear units. So again, basically these are one dimensional. So no squares, no cubes here, just kind of one dimension. So here are our popular measurements that we want to keep in mind. For chapter 9, you may want to just make yourself a big sheet with a couple of tables of all the popular measurements because you're going to need them to be able to convert back and forth. So here's our first set of popular measurements here. So we're looking at linear units. So again, no squares or cubes yet, just one dimension. And 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. 3 feet is the same as 1 yard. 36 inches is also the same as 1 yard. And 5,280 feet is the same thing as 1 mile. And you also have abbreviations. So MI is mile, YD is yard, and so on. Now, there is one procedure that can be used to convert from one unit of measurement to another called dimensional analysis. And there's other strategies too, but dimensional analysis is going to be the one that we're really going to focus on in chapter 9. It basically uses unit fractions. And a unit fraction has two properties. The numerator and denominator have different units, but the value of the fraction is still 1. So to use dimensional analysis, we set up a series of multiplications that allow us to cancel the old units and convert to the new or desired units. So without numbers, it kind of looks something like this. So you have your old units, you multiply by the new units and divide by the old units. And what's going to happen, it's going to allow us to cancel because you have the same thing on top and bottom. So you can cancel out units just like you cancel numbers or like you would simplify fractions. So for instance, if I had something like 2/4, right? I could write that as 1 times 2 over 2 times 2. So you could cancel out those 2's that are in common to help simplify. We can do the same thing with units. So the big thing is that you want to divide by the old units and have the new units be on top. And we have to do it in such a way that this fraction is still 1, so it's still equivalent. So let's try it out. So we have 40 inches and we're going 2 feet. So I'm starting with 40 inches. And I'm going to multiply, and I want to go to feet, and I want to divide by inches so that I can cancel out my inches. So this has to be equivalent. So you're going to ask yourself, well, how many feet to how many inches? And up here, I can see that 1 foot relates to 12 inches. So 1 foot and 12 inches are the same thing. So this fraction is actually still 1 because it's the same thing. 1 foot and 12 inches are the same. So what happens is the inches cancel. And then just remember, you're going to multiply straight across. So we're going to do 40 times 1 over 12. So I have 40 over 12 here. And don't forget your units is going to be feet now. And we can either leave this as a, I guess just simplify this and make it into maybe a mixed number. So 12 goes into 43 times, which is 36, which is 4 left over. And then I can simplify this fraction a little bit more and use 3 1/3. So 40 inches is the same thing as 3 1/3 feet. Or in decimal form, your book is writing it like this. We can put that little bar over the top because if you divide 1/3, you see that that 3 is repeating. So we use a little bar to show when some value repeats. All right, let's do another one. So I'm starting with 13,200 feet, and I want to go 2 miles. So if I want to go 2 miles, miles goes on the top, and then feet has to go on the bottom, so they cancel. But now I have to find something that's equivalent. So if I go up to my chart here, I see that 1 mile is the same thing as 5,280 feet. So 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Okay, so I'm making this, this is really like a whole thing of 1 because it's equivalent. So your feet cancel, and then you're just going to multiply straight across. We have 13,200 times 1 over 5,280, and again, we're going to be in miles here. So this becomes 13,200 divided by 5,280. And let's see, what you're going to get here if you divide this out is 2.5 miles or 2.5 miles. And I would just use my calculator at this point, excuse me, to get that final result. All right, the next one. 9 inches is my starting point. And I'm going 2 yards. So yards, and then inches has to be in the bottom. So if I look up here, I have inches to yards. So 1 yard is 36 inches. So 1 yard is 36 inches. 9 times 1 over 36 yards. So I have 9 over 36 yards. And this is going to simplify to 1/4 of a yard or 0.25 of a yard. Okay, I can divide these each by 9 to get that 1/4. So this whole process is called dimensional analysis. It's using these unit fractions to help us go ahead and cancel. So you just want to remember to whatever the old unit is, you want that on the bottom, and you want the new unit on the top. Just as a little note here, converting to larger units always produces a smaller number, and converting to smaller units always produces a larger number. So you can kind of see that a little bit on the first page. So here we're going to a larger unit, right? Feet is a larger unit, so we get a smaller number. Same thing here, going from feet to miles, right? Because it's 5,000 feet in 1 mile. Miles is a larger unit, so you're getting a smaller number in your answer. Just kind of a good check. All right, so that's the English system, but there's also the metric system. So the English system, again, is used mostly in the United States, but however, most other industrialized countries use the metric system. So we're kind of on our own on that one. One advantage of the metric system is that everything is based in powers of 10. So it does make it a lot easier to change between the different units within the metric system. The base unit here is a meter, which is a little bit longer than a yard at about 39 inches. Again, approximately 39 inches. So in the metric system, the prefixes are actually really important. So kilo means 1,000. Hecto means 100, deca means 10, deci is 1/10, centi is 1/100th, and milli is 1/1000. So whatever your base unit is, whether we're talking about meters or something different, then these prefixes still mean the same thing. So here, km stands for kilometer, which is 1,000 meters. HM is a hectometer, which is 100 meters. The DAM stands for a decameter, which is 10 meters. M just stands for meter. DM is decimeter. So be careful between DAM and DM. Is 0.1 meter. So this is 1/10 of a meter. SM stands for centimeter. So 1/100th of a meter. And mm stands for millimeter, which is 1/1000th of a meter. So those prefixes are actually really helpful in figuring out the relationship between meters. So meters here is kind of like your core middle ground. Everything kind of gets converted to meters. Now, just some other ideas just to kind of help you think about what these numbers mean in terms of the English system. So there are about 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. 1 meter is about 39 inches, and 1 kilometer is about 0.6 miles. Again, so for those of us who are used to the English system, just to kind of give you an idea of how big some of these values are. You can also go to page 585 in your text, and there's a lot more comparisons there. So for instance, a 6-foot man is the same as someone who is 1.8 meters tall. So it kind of just gives you an idea that, 6 feet and 1.8 meters are the same height. So it just helps us to put these different lengths into better perspective. Now, if you are within the metric system, okay, so within the metric system, you can still use dimensional analysis to transfer back and forth, but it's actually just faster to use ideas of powers of 10. So there's a little chart that your book likes to give that just have the labels in it. So again, notice here, km is kilometer, hm is hectometer, and so on. So it gives all the little labels. And each of these are power of 10 apart, right? From 1,000 to 100 to 10 to 1 to 1/10, 1/100th, 1/1000. So each one is a power of 10 change from one line to the next. So although we can use dimensional analysis, it's actually just easier to multiply by powers of 10. So the way you do it is if you're moving from a larger unit to a smaller unit, so heading to the right here, then you multiply by 10 for each move. If you're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you divide by 10 for each move. Okay, so let me show you how the table works. All right, so let's do the first one. So we're going from 504.7 meters, and we're going 2 kilometers. So I'm just actually going to rewrite this. So I have km, hm, dam, and I'm going to stop because I'm going from meters to kilometers. So I'm going up 2 kilometers this way. Okay. So I wrote it backwards, but think about your direction, right? So if you're going this way, you're dividing, and if you're going this way, you're multiplying. So I'm going left, right? I'm moving left along, so I'm going to be dividing. So each of these is a division by 10. So I'm going to take that 504.7, and I'm going to divide it by 10 3 times. Now, remember, when you're dividing by 10, we move the decimal left 1 place each time you're dividing by 10. So if I'm dividing by 10 3 times, I'm going to take it and go 1, 2, 3. So my answer is going to be 0.5047, and we're going to kilometers. Okay. So when you're multiplying by 10, we move the decimal right. And when you're dividing by 10, we move the decimal left. All right, let's do the next one. 27 meters, and we're going 2 centimeters. All right, so again, I'm just going to use the part of the chart that I need. So I see meters, and then it's decimeters, centimeters, millimeters, and I don't even need that far. So I'm going from meters to centimeters. So I'm going down 1, down 2. So if I'm moving to the right, I'm multiplying by a power of 10. So times 10 times 10. So I'm going to take that 27. Now my decimal point is on the right if it's not there, and I'm going to move it 2 times to the right. 1, 2. I'm going to fill in with zeros. So this becomes 2,700 millimeters. or centimeter, sorry, centimeters. Sorry, centimeters. Okay. So next time I'm going from 704 millimeters to hectometers. All right, so again, the big thing is just make sure you stay in order here. So let's see, I need hectometers and then decameters, meters, decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. So I'm starting here and I'm going here. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots left. So if I'm going left, we are dividing. So I'm going to take that 704. My decimal point is on the right if you don't have it. And I'm going to go left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to fill in any spots with zeros. And then finally for D, I'm going 9.71. Let's see, what do I have there? Decameters. And I'm going to decimeters. So D-A-M, the next one is M, and then D-M. So I'm just kind of recopying this above here. And then I'm starting here, and I'm going here. So I'm going 2 to the right. And if I'm going to the right, I'm multiplying by 10. So 971 decimeters. So within the metric system, again, if you want to use dimensional analysis, you can. The only thing is with the metric system is I would always go to meters first and then go beyond there. So like for this one here, you're already in meters, so it's pretty straightforward because there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. There are 1,000 kilometers in a meter. So those are pretty quick, but if you have to go over meters, then what I would do is go to meters first and then do the next jump. So it's a little bit hard to use dimensional analysis. It's much easier just to kind of move back and forth. The other thing that's nice here is notice that when you're moving to the left, you're just moving the decimal point to the left as well. And when you're moving to the right down the line, then you're moving the decimal to the right. So you almost don't even need to think about multiplying or dividing. If you have these in the right order, if you just match them here, then if you're moving right, you move your decimal right. And if you're moving left, you move your decimal left. So it's pretty easy within the metric system. All right. Now, if you're going between the English and the metric system, then we're going to go back to the dimensional analysis. So for most things, we're going to end up using dimensional analysis. The only time we don't is if we're within the metric system because everything is a power 10. So it's really fast. And again, that's why most other countries use the metric system instead. So here are some conversions, and a lot of them are approximations. 1 inch is about 2.54 centimeters. 1 foot is about 30.48 centimeters. 1 yard is about 0.9 meters. And 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometers. So again, these are just some conversions that you may want to take note of or make yourself a little chart for each chapter. So we're going to convert 8 inches to centimeters. So I'm starting with inches. I'm going to centimeters, and again, I'm getting rid of inches. So my one that I'm getting rid of is on the bottom, and my new one is on the top. So here I can see that there are 2.54 centimeters for every 1 inch. So centimeters is 2.54, and for 1 inch. So I have 8 times 2.54 over 1, and this is going to be centimeters. And just using our calculator here, we're going to end up with 20.32 centimeters. For our next example, we're going to go from miles to kilometers. So I'm starting with 125 miles. I want to go to kilometers. So again, kilometers on top, miles on the bottom. And then I need to find my comparison. Oops. So 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. Okay, so 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. So my miles are going to cancel. I get 125 times 1.6 over 1. And again, my new units are kilometers. So once I multiply this through, see, 125 times 1.6, I get 200. So 200 kilometers. And then here we're going from 26,800 miles to inches. Oh, not miles, sorry, millimeters. That makes more sense. Sorry, millimeters to inches. I fix my setup here. All right, so even myself, I'm reading too fast here. So we're going from 26,800 millimeters. So here's millimeters. Millimeters is going on bottom. 2 inches. So inches is on top, right? So I got to watch my units as well. Excuse me, guys. All right, so let's look and see what we have here first. Now, this one's a little bit harder. So I'm looking here, I see inches, I see inches. The only one I see with inches is this one. And it doesn't give me inches to millimeters. It gives me inches to centimeters. So I gotta do a little bit of work here first. So if I only know inches to centimeters, then I need to change this to centimeters first so I can get it to cancel. So we're gonna kind of come back to this. I don't have a conversion yet for this one. So I gotta make it, I gotta tweak it. So I know I have my conversion for centimeters. So I gotta change this to centimeters. So I wanna make this 26,800 millimeters, and I wanna go to centimeters first. So this is all in the metric system, right? So I'm gonna go back to my page before, and I see that the chart goes centimeters and then millimeters. So I'm starting here and I'm going back up 1 spot. So if I'm going left 1 spot, I'm going to divide by 10. So this is going to give me 2680 centimeters. So now I'm going to try again. 2,680 centimeters. And I want to go to inches. And now I have the conversion, right? I have 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So now I can go ahead and multiply. My centimeters are going to cancel. 2680 times 1 is just 2680 over 2.54, and I'm now in inches. All right, and let's see, what did I get here? I got about 1,055 inches, rounding to the nearest whole number. So this one's a little tricky. Sometimes we have to do an intermediary step. If I don't have the direct conversion, so here it's like I try to set it up and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I don't have inches to millimeters, but I have inches to centimeters. So let me make this centimeters first, and now I can use my dimensional analysis. So some of them are a little trickier than others, but you may have an intermediary step there. All right, let's do a couple more examples, and that will wrap up our lesson on length. All right, so the speed limit on many highways in the US is 55 miles per hour. We want to know how many kilometers per hour this is, right? So I want to go from 55 miles per hour to kilometers per hour. So I'm changing from miles to kilometers here. Now, if I go up here, I actually do have that conversion, miles to kilometers, which is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead. I have 55 miles per hour. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply that. Now my kilometer conversion is miles, and then I want to go to kilometers. So it's 1.6 kilometer to 1 mile. So my miles will cancel out here. I have 55 times 1.6 kilometers left. And here I just have 1 hour. So 55 times 1.6 is going to be 88 kilometers per hour. So 88 divided by 1 is still 88. So it's just this per hour idea. Now here again, this was a little bit harder because I'm using a second set of units, right? Because I have a per hour. But because they're both per hour, if you just want to leave that out as you're doing your computation and then bring it back in afterwards, you can do that too. So if you just want to convert from miles to kilometers first, and then remember that they're both per hour, so they're consistent, you can just bring that per hour back in, that would be fine. So 55 miles per hour is the same thing as 88 kilometers per hour. Now, a high-speed train in Japan is capable of traveling 200 kilometers per hour. And we want to know how many miles per hour this is. So this time I'm going from 200 kilometers per hour to miles per hour. So I have 200 kilometers per 1 hour. And again, I want to go to miles, so I'm getting rid of kilometers. And if I go back up top, I see that 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. So 1 over 1.6. Kilometers will cancel out. 200 times 1 is just 200. And then the bottom I have 1.6, again, hour. So when I do 200 divided by 1.6, let's see, I get 125, and my units are miles per hour. So a high-speed train that's traveling 200 kilometers per hour can go 125 miles per hour. So most of our highways are probably 55 to 65 miles per hour. So that's really, really fast, right? That's over double that speed. So that's a very fast train. So couple takeaways here. When you're converting within the English system or between the English system and the metric system, then you really want to use dimensional analysis. That's the easiest way, I think, to do it, because you can see how to line up those units so that they cancel appropriately. If you're within the metric system, though, so like we did here, then it's very quick and you can just do a multiplication or a division by 10. So within the metric system, you can use that chart. But if you're doing anything with the English system, then you want to go back to dimensional analysis.